The 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 171 with Damon Goddard from Amped Golf Performance.
Almost getting a little bit away of the ideology that it's, just a simple fitness training session that's very sterile. I see it morphing back into this, performance orientation, meaning more athleticism.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the 18 Strong Podcast. Thanks for joining us this week, where we've got our good buddy Damon Goddard from Amped Golf Performance on the line. Damon has been on the show multiple times before. He works with Jordan Spieth, but he also works with a lot of other PGA professionals, LPGA professionals, and a lot of the junior and elite golfers coming out of the Dallas and Fort Worth, Texas area. And wanted to bring Damon on to talk about kind of the philosophy that they have at Amped, but also just where he sees golf fitness going right now and the whole training aspect as it relates to golf. And then wanted to really boil down what are some of the simple things that he thinks that you, the golfer, should be working on or can do to really simplify what you're doing in your off-season program in the gym to make sure that your body's going to do what you want it to do when you hit the links in 2018. We also get into a discussion about extremes. And what I mean by extremes is, there's often things that we get caught up in, on the extreme side of a philosophy or the way that we do something. And so in the training repertoire, that can be going too heavy. That can be being too golfish. That can be relying too heavy on your cardio, whatever it might be. We talk about what are some of the things that you possibly need to be staying away from or some of the things you need to move towards a little bit and just be aware of that may be beneficial or not beneficial for your personal program. And then we talk about some of the cool tools that Damon's starting to use, some new things that he has in the gym, also some things that I've had a chance to use and play around with and why he's using them, what they're doing for his players. And then, we just get a glimpse into what's going on with Amped Golf Performance in the future, kind of expanding to different locations, to golf courses. So it's just a fun conversation to have with Damon to see how they've grown at Amped and how they're really spreading their message and their philosophy in this whole training realm in the world of golf. Got to say a quick thanks to our sponsor for this week's episode, which is Scratch TV. The guys at Scratch are doing a phenomenal job of highlighting the fun and interesting and entertaining side of the world of golf outside of just the PGA Tour, which they're always behind the scenes creating funny and incredible content there, but also traveling around the world, showing us what golf's like in different places. Some of the most beautiful locations with Eric Anders Lang in the Adventures in Golf series, or the 72 and 72 with Shane Bacon, where he goes to different locations, plays 72 holes of golf in 72 hours and gives you a glimpse of, different locations and where he's playing. So definitely go check out the guys at Scratch. You can find them primarily at their Facebook page. Scratch TV over on Facebook has most of their content, but you can go to scratchtv.com and you can find all of their social media platforms. All right, let's get into our episode with Damon Goddard from Amped Golf Performance. Damon Goddard, welcome back. Third time on the 18 Strong Podcast.
Oh my gosh, I know. I don't know how I keep tricking you to get me on back here, but no, I appreciate it, Jeff. It's always fun to talk with you and talk with the listeners and hopefully get some good info going out there.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had you on the show. I was just looking it up. You were on one of the very first episodes, episode number 5. You were on episode number 35. And then we had a big break, and we had to get some Damon Goddard back on the show. So there's been a lot that's happened with you guys, and I'm going to have you kind of share a little bit about you guys are in a new space. You've got new digs, and we're just kind of walking me around. You have to check out the Instagram that I'll put out with a little bit of a walkthrough on the facility. But tell us about the new space and what's going on there. What has changed?
Yeah, no doubt. So, we moved a little bit closer to the downtown Dallas area in what's called Turtle Creek area. And so we doubled up on our training space size. So that's kind of nice to just be able to spread your wings a little bit more, add a little bit more service orientation. So throwing some fascial stretching techniques, a lot of those different additions to our current models. We got full swing simulator coming in within the next 4 months. So a lot of growth happening from a facility standpoint. And then we've got some really cool golf course integrations, what we're calling our green grass integrations. And gosh, our first one's lining up here in the next couple of weeks with Dallas National. And we got about 4 or 5 slated for this next year. So, so things are going really well. And it's one of those things where we're finally put the concept into play and being able to truly kind of spread our influence in the game a little bit more effectively at these golf courses.
So you guys will actually have somebody staffed at the golf course, and is that just in the Dallas area, or are you branching out nationwide?
Yeah, we're branching out nationwide. We're going to have our first flagship launch here in Dallas, and then we'll have certain key markets within the nation. About 4 of those markets we're going to try to hit by mid-year this year. So we've got people going through our mentorship program. Then we'll be able to place somebody into those clubs and have that full turnkey system that what we do every single day with Amp Golf Performance. They are able to do it at these different golf courses.
Sweet. Can you give us a sneak peek on what markets might be seeing some Amp Golf?
Yeah, for sure. We're looking into the kind of South Carolina market. We're looking into our Arizona market, Phoenix, Scottsdale. We're looking into some Los Angeles as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Some hot places, man. Some nice like golf. Great place to go visit. So might have to go check out some of these facilities.
No doubt. Well, PGA can chase the sun, so can we. So
That's right.
Yeah. No, we're really looking forward to those.
So, everybody in the golf and fitness world has, or anybody that's been listening to you on the podcast here knows, obviously you work with Jordan Spieth, but let's talk about some of the other players that you guys have in your arsenal. You have a lot of the top players, obviously coming out of the Dallas area, and then other PGA players. So who are some of the people that you're working with, and who can we expect to kind of see running up the ranks these days?
Yeah, one in particular, that I want to really kind of hammer home on some things, guy to look for this next year is Kelly Craft. Kelly Craft has been an awesome athlete that we've been able to develop ever since he was about a freshman in college. And you can kind of take a look at his progression throughout the beginning of last year, having really good showings throughout the year. This guy, honestly, I'd give him the guy to look out for 2018 season. So those guys, we have a lot of our South Americans going out there, are on the PGA, the web.com, where they're down into Latin, PGA Latin America as well. Those guys are super fun. Plus it helps me to work on my English as second language kind of thing and work on my Spanish with these guys. A lot of our LPGA girls as well. We got El Hee Lee, we got Candy Kung, who have great, Candy had a great year this past year as well. So, and then Austin Connolly is another guy that's making a huge ripple into the European Tour. Obviously had an awesome showing at the Open Championship as well. So he's going to be a guy that's going to be one of those guys that I will continue to tell people, hey, keep your eyes out for this kid. He's going to really do some special things. So those are a few of the handfuls that we're working with, and then some of these juniors too are so much fun to work with. I get really excited with our junior contention that are going up into the college rankings and being able to commit early to these colleges, and it's just fun to see the fruition of their work be taken into the next level in the college setting.
It's kind of a little story about when the first time I got to go down and meet you, kind of hang out at Amped in your other facility, and regarding Austin Connolly. And I was in there, you're kind of walking me through, and I was just kind of hanging out, kind of being a shadow in the background, and got to see you guys work with your players. And Austin came in and kind of saw him work out, and he looked like just a young kid, thin kid, and he left. And I was like, how old is he? And you said he was like 18 at the time or whatever he was. And I was like, man, he looked much younger. And you just looked at me and you go, look out for this kid. He's like, you said, I don't know how he does it, but this kid gets it done and he's going to go places. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, fast forward, and I'm watching the Open Championship, and I'm like, that kid looks familiar. How do I know him? And then he just tore it up. And I'm like, oh my God. And I think I sent you a text right away and said, what is up with this kid? And you're like, I don't know, man, but he's he's going places. So it was just cool to see, him a couple years ago, and then all of a sudden see him on the big screen, playing there with Jordan, and it was kind of cool to see the progression. And so I can only imagine how you feel when you see these guys kind of run up through the ranks and see them get to a place like that.
Yeah, for sure. And, and it speaks to the testament of Cameron McCormick, just being an absolutely unbelievable instructor. These guys going through his entire system, they come out with this grit factor and the ability to dissect these courses like I've never seen before. So it's also, a great testament to good instruction.
What do you think it is about a guy like Austin? Obviously he's got the grit factor, but, he's not a big guy. What is it about him that is so deadly, though, out there?
I think for him, it's consistency. Obviously he's not going to get the massive long drive. He's got a very good sequence, from a kinematic standpoint, but it's a consistency across the board. Able to do it definitely out the European tour, where if we keep it straight down the alleyways, we can, be fairly consistent week to week. But his short game is off the charts, and so youth also plays a pretty positive role in the thing. His ability to recover on a day-to-day basis is pretty crucial. And so this kid, he's just very consistent every single swing. It's very repeatable, but there's a huge reliance on his short game and putting.
What are some of the big things that you work on with a guy like him? He's a smaller build, obviously, probably working on getting as much distance as possible. But when you look at a kid like that and you get him in there and you're working this off season, maybe, what are some of the things that you're working on? And I don't mean to call him a kid because he's a grown man. What is it that you guys are really focusing on with him?
Yeah, I think it is, when we start to talk about progressive overloads, this is definitely the epitome of very progressive loading patterns for him. For me, with him, because of the enormity of the season being so long for him, and this is a brand new concept to him, playing week to week out there, the big focus was recovery, and so you really being able to control movement well, having very quality control in our very basic fundamental movements. And so I'm not necessarily throwing a lot of weight on them, because that would just kind of backfire on me. I want him to own some very specific movements of just, the hinging patterns, squat patterns, being able to, unilaterally do some things, balance. But for me, him, mobility is king. And if I can keep him fluid and very, agile, if you will, in his movement, he's going to, recover well on a day-to-day basis. So with him, it looks a little more too simple, but I honestly think that if more people were to embrace simplicity in their design and do it in digestible components, I'm not asking the kid to do hour and a half type workouts. All I want from him really is very in-depth, very deep, maybe 20 to 25 minutes of consistent work that's going to address, the very things that we need to address on a day-to-day basis. If he can do that consistently, I know that a guy like him is going to be able to perform every single week.
For sure. Golf Digest obviously just released the top 50 list of golf fitness professionals. You, of course, were on there. Congratulations. No doubt in my mind that you would be on there for sure. But 2 weeks ago, I did a little episode just kind of having a little fun with the whole idea of, finding a golf fitness professional for a golfer that's out there, and who are the golf fitness professionals that maybe you should avoid. And I think it was Dr. Liam Hennessy that was on here, and one of the lines that always stuck with me was he said, danger lies in the extremes. And that's really what that episode was about. Was I took 5 different stereotypes of things that I've seen or heard, or just trainers that I've seen, and how sometimes we take things to the extreme. And one of them was like the total golfish trainer. One of them was the go heavier, go home trainer. What are some of the extremes that you're possibly seeing, now that fitness is becoming a thing in golf? What are some of the extremes that you're kind of concerned of maybe that are taking their golfers through, or the golfers are just kind of jumping on themselves?
Well, I think it's wherein lies the extreme is when we think golf and we make exercises incredibly golfish in repetition. I saw something the other day where it was a very simple move, but by the simple fact they were holding a golf club doing it, now it's an actual golf exercise. Well, right. No, it was just a squat pattern, but they added a little rotation to it, which it kind of made a cute, type of rotational squat component. And I totally get it. It's a very, very cool move, but we're not seeing lacrosse guys do it. We're not seeing baseball guys, holding their bats and doing some crazy moves in the gym. I think when we get to these extremes of going, okay, I want to get a lot of speed going, and I want a lot of power. I want to add yards. The extreme on that is escalating someone's progress entirely too fast. It's one of those things that we have on a training floor with all of our coaches: is make the athlete earn the right to get to that next progression. By earning the right, now they're owning the ability to do whatever specific phase we're in, whether it be a stability phase or whether it be a strength phase, whatever phase we're in, they have to own specific movement patterns, of squats and the hinges and the ability to push and pull, and having very good fluid and rhythm going on with their joints, and they're not showing me a lot of movement inefficiencies. And when they earn the right to go that next progression, I think it takes an intelligent assessment process to be able to do that, to quantify that. But it also, when I see the extreme of just not even doing the assessment, let's just go ahead and just rip it and go and start doing these power and speed moves without doing appropriate platform, building the platform. That's when people start to get injured. And so really in my mind, it's okay to start with a little bit of simplicity and to slowly get into getting the body to move well, is number one. And then let's start building the components of speed and power after that. And so it's kind of, it's one of those things that, you and I think we've used it. Like I can't put a Porsche engine in a little broken down Honda frame. Mm-hmm. I've got to get the framework to Porsche level before I add the components of speed. And then I can put the engine in after I built the framework. And so, it's kind of like, politics. Everyone's going to go to the extreme right or left, but, somewhere in the middle is probably where we need to, be able to stay.
Yeah, I think that, and I sound like a broken record here on the show, that simplicity is always probably the best way to go, especially when you're talking with somebody maybe that's not working with somebody like you or is in the gym 5 days a week working with a professional. These guys that are playing golf on the weekends, or maybe even, they're pretty competitive amateur players, but they've got jobs, they've got kids, and they need efficiency, but they need consistency too. And I find that that's where a lot of us end up kind of falling off is our consistency of our program. We want the exciting new exercises. We want to try these new things that we see on Instagram or whatever. And we want to do, maybe like you said, a squat pattern holding a golf club, which is very funny because I never thought about a baseball player doing an exercise with a baseball bat, but it's exactly the same thing. But,
exactly.
Not having that consistency of just, the simple basics and doing it over and over and over again. We had a couple people bring up some good points in our discussion. Actually, if anybody listening isn't in our private Facebook group, the 18 Strong Movement, we've had some really good discussion about that episode, specifically kind of gearing towards the lifting of heavy loads. One of the things the stereotypes I talked about was the go heavy or go home trainer that's only worried about numbers in the squats or deadlifts and things like that. And I by no means have any problem with golfers lifting heavy weights, but it really sparked a good conversation about, how to get there, how to get to those loads, when we should use them. What's your thought process, and maybe even what's your take on, some of the arguments that are going on about heavy weights, causing golfers injuries and, those kind of being, as some would say, the devil when it comes to back pain and things like that?
Yeah, we have these discussions quite a bit, actually. And I fall into the same tenet of views. Listen, lifting heavy weights. I like lifting. I like being able to lift big things. I like my athletes to be able to exhibit some form of strength and power. And once again, though, I'm not taking my first, second phase type athlete and jumping them right into lifting heavy weights. And so the ill-prepared, when they go, to that extreme and not be able to build that platform, that's where the argument is, pretty valid. I definitely would agree with somebody if if they've lifted weights and they're ill-prepared for it, and then they anticipate them to rapidly go around their body multiple times with a golf club, and to be able to stabilize that, well, yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. But if the athlete, once again, does it progressively and does it within a controlled environment where progress is assessed and then designed, and now they've earned the right, then I think that's a big thing. Now, to be able to work into a really cool strength phase and to be able to lift really big stuff, absolutely. I'm a big fan of that, because at that point, the athlete has exhibited levels of movement control and quality where now they can effectively, put those components of strength and speed in there and handle it well, which then can translate into, being able to maximize their sequence out on the golf course, and then to be able to do it repetitively with a reduced risk of injury. And so we see that day in, day out. I think the ill-prepared are the ones that are definitely, going to injure themselves because they haven't gone about it in the proper sequence.
Just to give some of the listeners an idea, I remember having a conversation with you a while back on, like somebody doing a deadlift. If somebody's never done a deadlift, it can take a long time before you would throw them into even doing it with a bar and a little bit of weight on the bar. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, for the simple fact that they need to exhibit that, once again, quality control of movement, understanding how to, hinge at the hip instead of the low back, and what's the appropriate aspect of, where my knees are, and should I bend them? So there's a lot of pieces that come into play where what I call, just a basic hinge movement, there's a lot of movements that build up into the ability to hinge incredibly well. And so where we can use bands, we can use, different feedback things. If I had if I'm simply using like what I like to use for a simple fact is, you've probably seen some things out on the market like the Pro Bar. Mm-hmm. What it does is that it simply almost distracts the body and the ability to, the bar, it's a really cool mechanism where it has a tension in a spring and I can pull it apart. And now what I've done is I've activated my posterior subsystem. My scaps are holding well. My lats are actually engaged, and now I'm almost like distracting or tricking the body into thinking about something else. And all of a sudden, they get into a hinge because they're not so inundated with the thought process of this is a movement that I simply just have to do, and then they just screw it all up. What I want to do is almost be able to activate some things in order to get myself into the movement, and so get little tools like the Pro Bars and things like that come into play where they're just different devices that give me really cool feedback in order to accomplish a very basic movement pattern. But I'm telling you, he did like 10 of those particular hinges with that simple tool. Then all of a sudden I'm absolutely waxed, because now I'm thinking of all the small detailed pieces of that hinge that I really wouldn't have thought about in the first place.
Let's take a second to thank our sponsor for this week's episode, Super Speed Golf. If you haven't heard of the Super Speed Golf system, you definitely haven't been listening to the 18 Strong podcast long enough. It is the top overspeed training system on the market, with the most PGA players, LPGA players, and amateur golfers using this system to gain more club head speed, gain more distance, gain more balance, and even gain better tempo in their golf swing. Just to give you a quick description of them, they basically are 3 different weighted clubs. It's a golf shaft with a slight weight on the edge of it, and they're swung in specific protocols in conjunction with a proper training program, good mobility program. But the idea is that you swing them right-handed and left-handed. and they help not only to increase your speed, increase your body's ability to move faster, but they help balance you out. They help work on your tempo without getting you too technical about what's going on with the club face of the club. I've seen huge gains in speed and distance from multiple clients, and I've heard great things from people listening to the show that have taken our advice and gotten their hands on a set of super speed golf clubs. Just a quick public service announcement before we unleash your speed. I might get in trouble with Damon on this one, but make sure that when you're swinging these super speed golf clubs, you're swinging towards the net and your hands are dry and you're gripping tight. They had a little issue with the window down at Amped Golf Performance that we don't want you to repeat. So again, grip it tight, swing it towards the net, both right-handed and left-handed. If you want to get your hands on some, just go to superspeedgolf.com and be sure to use the code 18STRONG to get your discount. All right, let's get back to Damon. Yeah, I was going to ask you about the Pro Bar because I have one as well. I got one from Philippe, the creator of it, and I've been playing around. I saw you guys using it for some different exercises on your page, and it's cool. It's very deceiving when you watch it in video because it looks like you're just holding a stick and you're just kind of moving back and forth. But it's got that distraction component to it, which is kind of describe it a little bit more as to how that distraction works and what it's doing with the scaps and shoulder blade.
Yeah, I mean, put simply, if I just am holding a stick, and it's a lot of our cues that we've given in the past is, if we had like a a simple bar holding in a hands, and they go, okay, try to feel like you're pulling it apart. Right. We've done those cues before, but then to now be able to have that appropriate tension where now I'm actually recruiting the right things. I'm not feeling like I'm breaking the stick. I can pull apart and the tension in there is an appropriate tension. Plus I can, insert different weights into the deal. And now I can build some variation progressions off of this thing. To me, it's a tool that now activates a lot of what, we're trying to accomplish when we're saying being able to activate a lot of the posterior subsystem, build some scapular-thoracic stabilization or just shoulder blade stabilization. So now I can do a movement and start to teach fluidity and rhythm within that, shoulder and shoulder blade component very, very well with a very, very simple tool. And it's one of those things where it's like a small toothbrush. These small toothbrush movements that we start to do that we don't normally think about, if you do them on a consistent basis and do them every day, and these little toothbrush exercises, now I can do bigger moves down the road because my movement is cleaned up exponentially by addressing a lot of the toothbrush exercises. And so, you don't want to walk around with stinky breath. And so this is one of those things where you don't want to walk around with, stinky shoulders. And, and now we're using yet another tool to build fluidity of the shoulder movement, and it, what I've seen is that it's really helped clean up just very simple stabilization of the scapulothoracic, and now it's helped people understand something that was fairly foreign to them with just a simple stick or band or whatever. Now it's another tool in the toolbox that I can use that really hammers home with a lot of people what it means for scapulothoracic stabilization.
It really kind of gave me a clear picture of just imbalances for myself personally, but also, working with some clients and seeing how they could just maybe distracted on the one side and not as well on the other side, or especially through a movement at certain points of the movement. And I think it says a lot about how much you pay attention to the shoulders, the scapulothoracic region. There's a couple tools that I've kind of learned from or heard about from you, as well as Jeff Ritter, both of you guys kind of talking about, the Pro Bar, and then the crossover symmetry was another one, just working on all the scapular stuff. And
for sure,
we've added those in our gym kind of based on you guys recommending them. But it's funny how they seem like such simple little movements and things like that, but those are the deceptive ones. Those are the ones that you don't realize. And anytime a client of mine sees me like come out with like a 2-pound weight or grab one of those crossovers or something like that, they're like, oh man, this isn't going to be good, because they know it's going to be hard and it's not something they'd like to do, but it's one of those exercises they know that they need to do, and it's really hard to accomplish.
Well, for sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, when we do big moves, like the deadlifts or a big shoulder press and things like that, we're masters of compensation. And so it's those small little detailed moves, especially when we're starting to use the pro bars and especially like the crossovers, when we're really doing them correctly. Holy smokes, it's really can almost become annoying, but it's a quick reminder of the details matter when it comes to, building quality movement control.
Where do you see, so as fitness is becoming more ingrained into golf, much like it has become in baseball, it has become in basketball, things like that, which I still kind of find it interesting that we call it golf fitness, because you don't hear baseball fitness or basketball fitness. But where do you see this whole thing moving towards? I mean, how do you see it developing and continuing to grow?
Where I see it going is it almost getting a little bit away of the ideology that it's, just a simple fitness training session that's very sterile. I see it morphing more so into back into this, performance orientation, meaning more athleticism. When we start to take a look at it, even more so now, I mean, these young guys out there every single day on the tour that are just absolutely crushing it. They look athletic. They train very athletic. They've been steeped in multi-sports growing up. I think the understanding that, early specialization doesn't necessarily pay off, where more so these athletes are introduced to soccer and basketball and baseball throughout these very key components of development. All these components now, I think, will start to become morphed into the ideology that, hey, these guys are now very much athletic. Now it's more, sports performance oriented, where, there's performance metrics that we're really going to be starting to hammer home. There is a place definitely and really in every sport for a lot of the corrective exercise basis based off of specific, assessment protocols. But now I can definitely see, the really adoption from the consumer going, yeah, I am an athlete. I am a golfer. Therefore, I'm a golf athlete. I see it morphing more so into kind of more performance orientation rather than just being, I'm going to do a simple movement that may help my T-spine, and then that's all I'm going to do for my golf game. No, I'm going to do massive phases throughout my entire development in order to become a better athlete, irrespective of age.
And so for the guy that, we'll call them the older guys. And I talk like that's me and you, because we couldn't figure out how to get on Skype today. But so for the guys that are, kind of out of the college age, they're past, the later, 20s and 30s, they're getting into their 40s and stuff. They've got families, they've got jobs. What are the things that you would tell them, look, this is what you should focus on first and foremost? I know you can't dedicate 10 hours a week to your fitness and your golf. Fitness-wise, training-wise, I want you to focus on this stuff, and then you can put together the rest of your boxes and check the rest of your boxes in your life elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a big question, Joe.
You're a top 50 golf fitness professional.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, quite honestly, when you're talking about guys and girls that are into, our age, we've probably dwelled in some athletic realm, prior to where we're, in college and whatnot. We still think we're athletes. But yeah, we have aches and pains and on the day to day we start having kids. So I definitely get it, because that's definitely me on a day to day. So really, I'm almost going to talk to my you and I on this. Yeah. Is if you and I were to focus on some really simple things. One, it would be mobility. Being able to control movement and control fluid joint control is number one. And so that can be really attacked from a lot of different angles, whether we're using some soft tissue work, or if we're actually just doing some, rad rolling or different components of some myofascial work, and then doing some very specific, very controlled, movement control. Let's say anything from functional range conditioning to actually having somebody take me through some fascial stretching technique, things like that. It sounds very simple, but being able to control movement is paramount, because who else is going to control it? And something external is going to, push you off. And next thing I know, if I cannot control my own particular chaos, then I'm going to be in a big dose of trouble. So that's number one. Approach mobility on a day-to-day basis, just much like you would, brushing your teeth. Your wife isn't going to want to kiss you once again when you got really stinky breath. Your body doesn't want to move very fluid if you're not taking care of it from a mobility standpoint. So really simple exercises that take maybe 5 to 10 minutes every single day. That adds as the basis for a lot of our other simple components of owning different movements every single day. I'm going to water it down so much. So, it's one of those things like, hey, Jeff, did you sweat today? I'm going to give us that kind of scenario. Is like, I want you and I to simply be able to work up a sweat. What does that look like? A lot of people avoid being able to just to simply work up a sweat every single day, because we think it's, just the mobility piece is what we need to focus on. Well, now I want to add elements of, now I'm going to do some core stability work. I'm going to do some shoulder stability work. I'm going to do some, multi-directional work. And so if every single day we had just a very simple focus of saying, all right, I'm going to focus on my core stability today, or my lateral stability today. What does it mean to be multi-directional again? I don't just simply need to focus on bench press or just squat. Now I need to move in, a transverse plane a little bit. And what does that look like? Just move in different planes of motion every single day. It's going to be beautiful for the body. It doesn't need to be very complex and set up in these faceted, progressions. If I were to really, think about every single day, just moving in a different plane of motion, we're going to be pretty okay.
Yeah, I find that has been a big deal for me over the past couple of years, is just figuring out what's a motion that I'm challenged in that I would have thought I could do, and then try to get a little bit better at that. And I find that when you're doing a lot of the mobility stuff, or you're working on these different movement patterns and trying to get the joints moving, as you would say, more fluidly, that's when the body feels its best. And then that's when you're able to do the bigger, heavier lifts, if that's what you want to go for.
For sure.
But I think we get ingrained in these patterns of, this is my workout routine. These are the normal motions that I do, and that's all I'm going to do. And I think that I've come to appreciate that much more as, I develop my aches and pains like you were talking about as well.
Yeah. Well, and I think that alludes really well to we always avoid what we're not really good at anyways, right? And so when we're not really good at something, what it does is it starts to build this, crazy threshold of, I'm just going to avoid it and not take one step past it. So, these, aches and pains that we have, we avoid them because, it's not fun to approach, trying to get some movement control in my shoulder, or, in my knees or whatever. We avoid that, addressing it because it's easier to avoid it than actually address it. But once we've addressed it and started to, take one step past that threshold of the ability to perform a movement and with quality, next thing we did, we just increased our capacity to do more stuff with that joint. And and so once we, increase our ability to step past that, we increase our, capacity to do bigger things. And then all of a sudden we have now the ability to do the bigger moves because we didn't avoid stuff that just we're not good at. Maybe face the challenges a little bit of going, what, I kind of stink at this and I need to probably work at this because it's pretty important for my overall movement quality, my overall health.
Well, I think that's where it really helps to have somebody else tell you what to do also, and that could be
for sure.
whether you're going to a fitness professional and paying for their services, or, if you just kind of get a program from somebody else. Like me personally, I have another guy at our gym, at our facility, and more often than not, I have him write a program for me just because I know that he's going to program something different for me that I need to do, but I probably wouldn't put in there because I didn't want to do it, you know? and I think it's sometimes those times where you're pushed in different directions than you would push yourself is where you need to go.
Yeah, no, and it adds that level of accountability across the board that I think all of us need at every level. And so, I love that you do that. I every now and then we'll have the guys push me through some things as well. And so, accountability is key, especially during this time of year where we're resetting a lot of our targets. And the New Year stuff coming around, and so now some accountability is key to face those thresholds a little bit more.
You mentioned the new year coming up, and typically everybody's got their New Year's resolutions. And I would imagine a lot of people coming to you with the same questions on, how do I lose weight? How do I get stronger? This and that. And I'm sorry to catch you off guard with this question, but what's one question that you think maybe golfers should be asking when they're coming in that you typically don't hear?
Yeah, I think it would be the antithesis of the big question that I always do get. Obviously I want to gain distance, I want to gain speed. Yeah, right. Well, that's cool. Yeah, everyone does. I get that. I want to hear the question: how can I recover better after my round? And that's the question I want to hear. Recovery, in my mind, is key because let's say, especially at the pro level, at the collegiate level, even the junior levels, and our avid golfers, if they're playing multiple days in a row, is how do I recover better? And so there's components that you just mentioned. The nutritional components comes into play. The whatever regeneration strategy I'm going to be using, that comes into play. Sleep comes into play. Actually, getting some dirty work and going pretty deep on understanding what my blood profiles look like and working with my medical doctor to start to understand what that means and what that looks like. All that aids in the ability to recover better. I think if we simply recovered better as an entirety, as not just golfers but as a society, we'd kind of probably be a little bit happier as well. And so more sleep, we're moving better, we're feeling better. Then all of a sudden, we're not having road rage on somebody because my back hurts all the time. That's a simple question that I want to hear. How can I get better at my recovery strategies?
Yeah, I love that. I think we always try to figure out what can I do more of instead of, how can I get better at doing less and being more efficient. So excellent.
Yep. No doubt.
All right, my man. What has you excited for the year 2018 as we're about ready to bridge the gap and go through the new year?
Yeah, I love it. 2018 really kind of holds a lot of fun stuff for us. We've set the platform for a lot of the growth. It was a lot of grunt work for this past year. Now we can apply it, and being able to spread the influence of what we've been able to do on a day-to-day basis excites me. It gives us a better platform to preach from. So that's what excites me in 2018 is be able to build a better platform to spread our influence a little bit more effectively, especially in the golf course. And so, I'm a pretty simple guy. I like to be able to use our influence well. It's kind of one of those things where to whom much is given, much is required. And so now, being able to do our diligence with what's been given to us and the opportunity that lies ahead to really continue to change the shape of the game. Is what we're looking forward to.
Very cool. I love what you guys are doing. I can't wait to see this platform expand. I haven't had a chance to ask you yet because I've instilled this question more recently, but got to ask you, what's Damon Goddard's walk-up song to the tee box?
Oh, dude. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go with two of them if I could. Van Halen Eruption is the sickest guitar solo ever. And then, you know what? If I were to go with Metallica, Fuel would be pretty awesome. Yeah, that's going to be it.
Those pretty solid choices.
Thank you. Yeah, that might give a pretty good glimpse into the personality when I'm working out. So those would be pretty awesome walk-up songs.
Fantastic. All right, buddy. It's always a pleasure to spend some time with you. And like I said, we're excited to see what happens with Amped Golf Performance in the future. We know there's some more champions coming out of those gates. So very excited. And thanks for taking the time.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us this week on the 18 Strong podcast with Damon Goddard. If you want any more information or you want to know how to get your hands on the Pro Bar or the Crossover Symmetry, just go to the show notes page, which is 18strong.com/Damon Goddard, number 3, I think. Just search for Damon in the search tool or look up episode number 171 and you'll find it there. And we'll have the links there on how you can get your hands on it. And if there's any kind of promo codes or discounts or anything that we can get you guys from 18 Strong, we'll definitely show you how to do that on the show notes page there. So again, go to 18strong.com, look up Damon and episode number 171. You'll find all the information there about them. I know Damon said that they just did some educational videos with Crossover, so we'll have that linked up as well, so you can see some of the golf-specific educational videos that they did with those guys. And then also we'll have linked up any new information we have on Damon's new locations and what they have going on at Amped Golf Performance. All right, quick thanks to our sponsor for this week's episode, Scratch TV and Super Speed Golf. Be sure to go check out both of those groups. They have supported the 18 Strong podcast for a long time, and we're big believers in what they do. Thanks again for joining us this week. We'll catch up with you one last time in 2017. Train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.